Speaking of compassion, this is fascinating. You ever heard of the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee? This is a federal panel of nutritionists. It's a group of nutritionists who work for the federal government. They're not partisan. They're not Democrats or Republicans. They're bureaucrats. They're well, not bureaucrats isn't even the right word. They're experts. They're scientists. Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee. It was created back in 1983, which was during the Reagan administration. And one of their jobs is to give the Department of Agriculture suggestions on how to tell America how we should eat, come up with food, our dietary guidelines. They just came out and said, the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, essentially that being the best diet for the planet is being vegan. Now, vegans don't eat any animal products at all. Hardcore serious vegans also don't wear animal products. They don't wear leather shoes or leather belts. I am not one of those kind of vegans. I actually am wearing leather shoes right now. And I realize there's a certain level of hypocrisy associated with that. I think all of us in every aspect of our lives have to figure out, whether it's hypocrisy or whether it's just, hey, I'm going to walk up to this line, but I'm not going to walk over it, or go this far and not go that far, whatever it may be. But the last time that I ate meat, with one single exception, the last time I ate meat was, as I recall, in 1968. I quit eating meat in 67 when I was 16 and became a vegetarian. And then about 4 years later, 4 or 5 years later, when Louise and I got married, I became a vegan, and for a number of years, and then went back to being a vegetarian. And I was a vegetarian then for, 35 years or more. And now over the last couple of years, last 2 years or so, I've been mostly vegan. I say mostly because if we go out to a restaurant and there's some cheese sprinkled on something, I don't get hysterical about it. I don't ask if there's, a little bit of fish sauce in the pad thai. I mean, it doesn't freak me out. There is a moral piece to this, but I figure, hey, if 99.9% of everything I eat is like light on the planet, but it's really astonishing the impact that diet has on not just our health, but on our planet. There's the BritishMeat.com, one of the vegetarian societies over there, put together a really nice piece on the internet, 49 reasons why I'm a vegetarian. And number one, conservation of fossil fuel. It takes 78 calories of fossil fuel to produce 1 calorie of beef. It takes 35 calories of fossil fuel for 1 calorie of pork, 22 calories of fossil fuel for 1 calorie of poultry. Know how many calories of fossil fuel it takes to make 1 calorie of soybeans? 1 calorie of fossil fuel. So if we eat low on the food chain, if we eat plants, we are causing the world to consume radically less oil. Number one. Number two, water. It takes 3 to 15 times more water to produce animal protein than plant protein. Water conservation. Efficient use of grains. It takes 16 pounds of soybeans and grains to produce a pound of beef, 3 to 6 pounds of grains to produce a pound of turkey or a pound of egg. And if we just eat those ourselves, we're cool. Soil conservation. When grains and legumes are used more efficiently, they write over at BritishMeat.com, our precious topsoil is automatically made more efficient in its use. Saving our forests. One of the major reasons why they're cutting down the rainforests is to provide pasture land for beef. And by not doing that, for a while there, it's been a few years since I've heard this, but there used to be this campaign about, McDonald's in the rainforest, how that maybe they quit buying Argentinian or Brazilian beef. I'm not sure, but all of this. And then aesthetics, decaying animal parts, whether they're in your freezer, in your refrigerator, or on the plate in front of you in a restaurant. How is that anything other than gross? There are no nutritional deficiencies that you can experience from being vegetarian. There are entire societies that have been vegetarian for thousands of years. Vegetarianism is built into Buddhism and Hinduism, for example. Vegetarianism is built into some parts of Christianity. The Seventh-day Adventists are vegetarians. Look at the studies. You can easily research this stuff yourself. Seventh-day Adventist health. Seventh-day Adventists are vegetarians from birth, from before birth. And they are the healthiest people in the United States. No more agricultural chemicals. No more exposure to livestock, drugs. There's over 20,000 different drugs, sterols, antibiotics, growth hormones, and veterinary drugs given to livestock animals. You really want that stuff? Worms and parasites, pathogenic microorganisms. Thousands of people a day in the United States get food poisoning from slaughterhouse stuff getting, around the kitchens and the restaurants, and it's invisible, the microbes, and they get on the knife or they get on the fork, and then they get moved over to something else that doesn't get cooked, and boom. The next 3 days you're sitting on the john wondering what happened. About between 3,000 and 4,000 people in the United States every year die from this, and it can almost all be tracked back to meat. So you ready to become a vegetarian?